Okay, boxing fans, right now we're going to talk about Anthony Joshua versus Kevin Safety Pin Johnson. Could be known as Kingpin by the end of the night. Who knows? We'll see. We're going to start with me, Paul, and Rory again. Let's talk about this fight, guys. First of all, Paul, I'll bring you in first. Johnson is looking in fantastic shape. He's got a full training camp in. He's been sparring with Tyson Fury. What are your thoughts on Johnson's chances?
If you'd have asked me 2 or 3 months ago when the fight was first put together, I'd have said none. And now that I've seen him in shape for once in his life and he looks like he's had a full training camp, I'd say his chances have gone from none to slim.
Rory, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I'm the same with Paul. It was surprising how sort of, I say slim, how sort of less fat he looks. Probably the politest way of putting it. And he certainly aided his chances by looking more in shape than he normally does. Whether or not I give him much of a chance anyway to begin with is regardless, but he's got a better chance, pretty much echoing what Paul said, a better chance than what originally I thought he would have.
I agree. I mean, it can never hurt your chances, I don't think, actually trying to look like an athlete for once, considering you aren't supposed to be an athlete. So well done, Kingpin, Safety Pin, whatever you want to call him, on that front. Now that part out the way. Joshua's got a 100% KO ratio, and Johnson's never been knocked out. One of those won't be facts come May 31st. Which one do you think that will be, Paul?
I think Joshua probably stops him, to be honest. I know Kingpin's gone the distance with Tyson Fury, Vitaly Klitschko, Derek Chisora, and some other names, but in all those fights, he was only there really for the paycheck. And I think if he comes into this fight to win, like he says he is, and as his body shape would suggest he is, I think if he comes forward trying to have a go, it's actually only going to hurt him in the long run because he gets through fights by going into survival mode. And if for once he fights not in survival mode, I think he might leave himself open to big shots. And we've mentioned all the weight he's dropped. Maybe it's affected his ability to take a shot. We don't know. Normally big men, whether they're fat or not, or whether it's just muscle, either way, big men can normally take punches better than a slimmer man can. So maybe dropping the weight and actually coming forward and being positive for once might mean that it gives Joshua more chance to knock him out. But maybe he is still durable and we just get an old-fashioned British stoppage. That wouldn't surprise me at all either.
If Joshua does stop him legitimately, like he stopped that Jon Snow guy in the last fight, will you give Joshua credit for that?
Well, yeah, I think you'd have to, because as I've said, Johnson's been the distance with some good fighters, or at least some well-known fighters, like Chisora, like Fury, like Klitschko, and especially Klitschko and Fury. A lot of people class those guys as big punchers, and they couldn't get rid of Johnson. And if Joshua gets rid of him, stops him, and I mean stops him properly, I don't just mean hits him with a flush shot. Johnson stumbles, the referee jumps in and waves it off when he can clearly continue. If that happens, then no, I won't give him any credit really. But if he stops him properly, as in knocks him on his ass and Johnson quits or he knocks him spark out, then yeah, I think you've got to give Joshua credit and you've got to start saying that his power's real.
That's right, yeah. What are your thoughts, Rory? Do you think what's going to stay, the chin or the KO ratio?
The KO ratio, I think. I know that, I'm going to sound like Eddie Hearn now, these guys that Joshua have been fighting more recently apparently are meant to give him rounds. I genuinely think Kingpin will, but I just think if Joshua can keep up the work rate for the majority of the fight, I think Joshua is a fit lad. I don't. he's not a pudding of a heavyweight. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
Like Fury could have been when he first started. Then I just think it's a case of perhaps not a flush knockout like he did against Zumbano Love. I'd probably say, stopped on his feet, British stoppage like Paul said, or even just a retirement, just, in being way behind. He might have been knocked down a few times, Johnson, and it's just waved off, later on maybe. I mean, looking at Johnson, I know that Johnson obviously have never been knocked out, but this is a guy who's lost to Christian Hammer, who coincidentally has lost a massively one-sided fight against Tyson Fury. I would even say that Anthony Joshua could probably beat Christian Hammer. I know that's a bit of a statement, but I'd probably say he's at that sort of level, or he'd be better than Hammer now.
Okay.
So if he's losing to those guys, then I'd say it's pretty much curtains too.
Yeah. We'll move on and we'll go to the next question, and I'll answer this as well. But Paul, is this actually going to be a test for Joshua? We hear it a lot. When's he going to get tested? Is this actually a test?
Not really, in my opinion. Just because a guy is a name doesn't mean that he's necessarily any good, or ever has been. And has Johnson ever been any good, really, apart from being durable? No, not in my opinion. I don't think he's ever won a big fight against a world level fighter in his entire career. Every time he's fought at world level, he's just been beat on for the majority of the fight. And okay, he's never been knocked out, but he's never even been competitive in any big fight I've ever seen him in. So, Is this really a step up? No, not really. I'd prefer to see Joshua in with some, fighting for the British title or fighting for the European title. Why can't he fight for those titles or opponents of around that level? There's absolutely no reason he can't. The only reason is that apparently Matchroom and Sky want to just take him a different route and put him in against guys like Johnson, who have names but aren't necessarily that good and won't really help him develop. Whereas guys of British level, European level, guys who would help him develop, but it just wouldn't sell as many tickets. And it's understandable why they're doing it. It's just disappointing as a boxing fan because we want to see guys in competitive fights.
Yeah. The way I'm going to look at this is I'm going to sort of disagree with Paul. I think it will be a test in some aspects, but not a test in others. I mean, first of all, don't get it wrong. I don't think for a long period of time, for that long in this fight, Johnson will try and win. Maybe for the first 2 or 3 rounds, he might try and win. And if he's still there after that, he'll go into survival mode. The only thing I see being tested is Joshua's stamina. How he will react in the second half of the fight, possibly, and stuff like that. The only problems that I can see looking at that is he could get blasted out early if Joshua's power's that good, and he's trying to really open up on Joshua. The second problem is sometimes Johnson can sit on the ropes. If you do that against Joshua with a British referee around, that's going to be a British stoppage waiting to happen. I don't want to see that. Certain things like that I could see being a problem with what I've just said. But if I expect Joshua to stop him with the British stoppage later on. And people go, oh, it's brilliant, and everyone else will be like, But I'll go straight to Rory. Rory, what are your thoughts? Was this going to be a test for Joshua?
I think it is a step up, but I don't mean to say that in a positive way. I think that says more about Joshua's opponents he has been facing than giving Johnson a load of credit. It is going to be the best opponent he's probably fought of his 12 previous fights. But looking at Johnson's record, the best person Johnson's fought is Alex Leopai. Other than that, Johnson's a guy who's never even won a national title. In terms of a recognised belt, obviously he's won like international types titles or continental but he's never won an American belt. He'd obviously never won a world title as far as I'm aware. So it is just above, I would say, journeyman stage. If he was a British fighter, I would compare him to the likes of, say, I don't know, a relatively decent,
Matt Skelton.
perhaps a Matt Skelton or a Sprott or or an aging Danny Williams, who's fought for a title but never really
Danny
done
Williams.
anything.
Danny Williams before he couldn't take any type of punch at all.
Yeah,
Okay,
and that sort of ilk. So yes, it's a step up,
not a
but
massive one.
I wouldn't be like raving.
Hmm.
Great if Joshua flattens him.
Yeah, well, they will, and I'm sure a lot of
course.
people will. So we'll quickly finish this one off because there is a chance that this video might be longer than the actual fight. So, Paul, your prediction?
Joshua to stop Johnson in round 4 or 5, British stoppage.
Rory, your prediction?
Joshua stops him rounds 7 to 9.
I'm going to say round 7 to 9 British stoppage too. Joshua. Imagine if Johnson won. How bad would that be? Damn. We won't go into that though.
Oh yeah.
Nah, we won't go into it.
No.
We're gonna call it there.